Hi everyone, welcome to the Your Life Unfiltered podcast with your hosts Kitu Kothari and Deepak Jain. Today we have special guest Sachin Kumar. Sachin, if you want to quickly introduce yourself.
What's up, guys? I'm Sachin Kumar, aka Scotchy on social media. I'm a content creator who makes South Asian content, comedic skits, and podcasts. I also am an actor here based out in LA. Yeah, man, I'm excited to be here, man. I'm stoked to talk to you guys.
Excellent, excellent. Sachin, great to have you. So before we talk about anything else in detail, let's go back a few years. Talk to us about your early childhood, early upbringings, any inspirations, motivations that you can connect with what you're doing today. That would be extremely helpful.
Absolutely, man. It's weird, man. So my childhood is kind of like all kinds of places. So I was actually born in Fort Dodge, Iowa, out of all places, right? The
Oh
worst
wow.
place for any brown boy to be is Iowa. And so like I was born there. I lived there for a few years. And dude, I went to a Catholic school. And the Catholic school, I kind of found myself in a weird boat where like I didn't really, I was the only colored person in my school. I was not able to relate to anything to anybody because it was like just a bunch of white people pretty much, which is fine. It was just like for me, it was like as an Indian, growing up, I find it hard to connect with my roots and whatnot. Fast forward a few years, I moved to Amsterdam in the Netherlands. I lived there for like 4 years, and I went to an international school. So this is where like all of my artistic kind of innovations and inspirations came to be because the way the school system was structured, it was like weird to not take an art class. So we took like I was in like third grade taking cooking classes, theater classes, like claymation, making animated games. Like they really wanted you to like they were prioritizing art. And I think that just I can't speak for all of Europe in general, but just this particular school was like focused on art, right? And I think like for some reason or the other, it hit me different, man. I really just appreciated art. I used to write comic books as a kid. I used to make like sculptures out of like ceramics and like draw with charcoal and like different things like that I found interesting to me. But like obviously theater was something I was super connected with just because I was also a shy kid growing up and I found it fun to be like portraying a character because like it wasn't embarrassing to me. It was like, oh, like if I did something weird as the character, it's not me, it's the character that did that. So like no one can make fun of me. They can make fun of the character. So it was almost like
Wow.
my kind of like something that I would like shadow myself with, right? Uh Fast forward another few years, I moved to Michigan. I did like high school in Michigan, I did college in Michigan. And then over there, I found out that like academics was much more prioritized than arts. Like people didn't give a damn if you did took an art class or not an art class. I was like, okay, so like I switched routes completely. I was like, dude, I need to be in academics. Like I remember when I got to Michigan, like there was like this people were already studying for like the ACT in middle school because like they had to take it to get to this advanced program. And I was like, I didn't even know what that was because like obviously I'm not from here, nor did I know what A's and B's were. Like we had a different like schooling grading system. So like I didn't know what A's, B's, C's, like none of that made sense to me. And so it was like super stressful. But like anyway, long story short, like I kind of found myself back in the artistic world. I started getting into theater. I minored in theater. And yeah, man. And here we are.
Oh wow, what a story, what a
Yeah.
legendary. It looks like you
It's,
you basically dabbled around, obviously in different geographies, but also in different
yeah,
pursuit that you came across from time to time, and that's amazing.
absolutely.
Wow. So you did some theater in Amsterdam as well, right? So
I
talk to us
did.
a little bit more about that.
Yeah, dude, I did a little bit of theater in Amsterdam. My first experience with theater was a play called Oklahoma. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's kind of like one of these like classic OG plays. I didn't have a big part at all. In fact, I was surprised I even got because they selected a few people to be in the play. I
Hmm.
somehow got selected. I had no interest in doing this at all. In fact, I was trying to go. I was trying to tell my mom to not put me in it. But anyway, I was kind of in the background of the whole play. I had no lines. I was there for maybe like two scenes. And dude, I don't know. It was just like interesting to see like these actors come to life. And what I mean by that is like, I would see these like the main characters of this play like just be students, and then they instantly like once we were rehearsing, they were like a different person completely. Like the entire day, they would just stay in character, and like they would be this person talking differently and like these like country accents and things like that. And I was just super compelled at that. I was like, this is so cool that like people can just shift like that. And then like obviously like I'm watching movies on TV. I'm like, is that what they do also? And it just started like getting the wheels turning for me, like in terms of like theater and like acting and things like that. And then a few months later, maybe not a few months, maybe a year or two later, we had this play. So we had this day called All the World's a Stage. And pretty much what that means is like because we went to an international school, there was a day dedicated to like everyone showcasing their culture. So like Indians like showcasing like Indian food. Like you can kind of go in like different rooms in the school and it's like a
Hmm.
different culture. So you go like a Chinese room and there's like Chinese culture. Go to like an Indian room, there's like Indian cultures. And then at the end, it's like it kind of like your parents are invited, everyone's invited, and everyone can kind of get a dose of like everyone's culture, which was interesting. It made me like really kind of culturally aware. But at the end of the day, we had this play, and the play was like each like kind of group of like multicultural people. So like it was like me as the Indian, like some people as other people. Like the play wasn't necessarily surrounding like our cultures, but it was like all of us coming together and like performing like some sort of play. So I remember the play. I can't honestly, I don't even remember the play that I did, but like for some reason I was a rat and I had to make like a rat mask. So I still have that actually, not here, but in my home back in Michigan, I have this like paper mache rat mask. I have no idea why. I don't know what the play was about. I was in like third grade or something. But yeah, man, it was like there's some like examples of like theater I did over there.
Okay, wow, that is a story. I actually that does take me back to like my childhood because I remember paper mache was like a big thing in art class back in the day. I don't know if they still do it. I really don't know, but
Yeah,
I
I don't
remember
know
back
either.
in the
I'm
day they
curious.
used to do that.
Yeah, man, it's crazy, man. It's one of those one of those things I feel like we could all just like relate to.
Awesome, awesome. So you basically after that, after Amsterdam, you came back to Michigan. So
Yeah,
how was that transition? I know you mentioned that you when you came back, there was a lot more focus on academics, right? So it's a
yeah,
lot of pressure. And just a little while ago, we were talking about you doing some pre-med stuff, right? So
yeah.
just do you mind expanding on that particular aspect of how is your transition and how did you kind of decide to major and minor in theater, major in something
Yeah,
else? I
dude,
might say.
absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely. I'm not gonna lie, dude, it was rough. It was so bad. I hated it so much because like going from Amsterdam, which was like the most liberal place ever, like it was just like a dream world, coming to the US, or I can't say all of US, but specifically my school in Michigan, it was
Hmm.
so awful because the thing is, no one I quickly realized that like at least where I was at, and I'm sure like a lot of people from the US can maybe relate to this. It I think like over here it's more like individualistic. Like the mindset is more like I need to look after me before I can look after someone else. Whereas over there, where I was from, it's like you look after everyone together. It's not like we look like if I had one meal, I would probably give it to someone and I would starve and suffer and give it to someone else. Whereas here, I would eat the meal, right? It's like that kind of mindset. So I quickly realized when I moved here, like I wasn't like people weren't helping me. Like I was kind of stuck in school. Like again, I didn't know what like A's, B's were. Like I didn't know like grading systems. I didn't know what homework was. Dude, I remember
Hmm.
going to
The-
school. I like we didn't
There's
have
no
homework.
homework in Amsterdam? What?
No, dude, there was no homework. That's like I was like,
What?
I
Wait,
thought the
what?
concept was so, dude. I thought that concept was so stupid. I was like, why do I have to do school at home? But like, I remember specifically, I was in like my math class, and my math teacher like, I like obviously didn't turn any homeworks. I didn't know we had to do. I thought it was like optional thing or whatever. So I never turned it in. And I
Wow.
remember in the middle of class, dude, she brings me to the back room. She was like, "Yeah, like you're like failing math class in seventh grade." And I was like, how? Like I'm like doing the work. Like, what do you mean? And she's like, oh, you haven't turned in homework. I was like, what the heck is home? Like, I was so confused. But like the thing is, like I was like, bro, like why do I have to do this? But the thing is, like, what I realized in that moment was like, dude, like even me explaining to her as a seventh grade kid, like I didn't know what homework was, she still didn't care. She's like, okay, like figure it out, like do the work. Like it was very like I was on my own kind of thing. And
Oh.
I like remember like, dude, I had like a 1.0 GPA. So it was like something ridiculous, dude. I was failing every class because like I had no idea what I was doing. So that process was stressful, man. I remember like that summer when I moved, it was like me and my dad hitting the books every day, bro. It was torture because like every morning I'd wake up, study because that was like the worst thing ever. Because like I needed to like, there's no way I could like survive, like I had to
Oh
do it.
man.
Um, but yeah, dude, like kind of like that from transitioning into like that mindset, like I had no other option but to suppress like my artistic side. Like I had no
Hmm.
choice because I was kind of forced to do that. Because if I
Hmm.
didn't, I would be so screwed in school because like I would just probably flunk out of everything.
Hmm.
But like in high school, I ended up finding my rhythm. Like I got like into like academics. I was like super into science. I was super into like, fitness. I was huge into fitness and I wanted to get into sports medicine. That was kind of like my thing. I wanted to like get like be the doctor for like a sports team or something. That was like my dream. And so I would shadow orthopedic surgeons, shadow like physical therapists. Like I was getting into that world, and which led me to be pre med in college, like for most of college.
Hmm.
I hopped around different majors. I was like, I started being, my first major was nutritional science. and I was getting into nutritional science. But then I was like, dude, like this is kind of like boring. Like I don't really want to think about like food and stuff like all day. Like at least for me, I'd be like, no disrespect to people who are nutritional science majors. Like it's fine, but like for me, I was like, bro, like I can't do this. So I switched to genetics, and I was like, oh, genetics is interesting. But like I took like one of those courses, and I was like, dude, this is like hard as I'm like, I can't do this. And so I switched back to nutritional science, and then I ended up switching like finally to neuroscience, and that's what I graduated with, a degree in
Oh,
neuroscience.
Oh,
wow.
neuroscience. Okay. So
Yeah.
I have to ask a question to see if there's a parallel, but
Yeah.
have you been able to leverage any of the stuff you learned in neuroscience with your content creation and acting?
Yep, absolutely, man. Absolutely. So, in fact, I had no idea I was going to get into content creation. Like that was definitely not part of the plan. But like my senior year in neuroscience, I took the one class that I think is the best class I've ever taken in my college career, and it was called neuromarketing. And neuromarketing. So keep in mind, neuroscience as an academic discipline only developed around like 12 to 13 years ago. So to be
Really?
at the forefront, yeah. So like as an academic discipline, right? It's been around forever, but it's like, as like something like people can study, not that long ago. And so when I was like studying neuroscience, it was like cutting edge. Like we were at the front, like the front lines of like the newest things like that were happening with neuroscience
Hmm.
technology. So like I remember I was taking an exam, and like by the next exam, the information on the first exam already changed because scientists found like new ways to like do certain things, or like I guess what do you call it, like disapprove like the concepts that were in the first exam. So it was like you're
Ah.
constantly like shifting your mind, like whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, so I took this class, this neuromarketing class, and for those of you who don't know what that is, it's kind of like the neuroscience behind how and why people make marketing decisions. So, for example, like why when you walk into a grocery store do you smell the bread, and like why like all of your like most important needs and appliances are like in the back, and like why is there like gum at eye level for like adults and like candy and eye level for kids? It's like all marketing, right? And so you
Yeah.
kind of learn. I learned like how pretty much I learned how we were all getting scammed pretty much every day in marketing.
Subliminal
Like
messaging. I
every
get
single
it.
day, dude. You
Yeah.
walk into everywhere, you like learn. Um, dude, so it's interesting. So, like, anyway, that got me into marketing, right? And like that eventually translated into like social media because it's the same thing, right? It's like, is your hook good enough for someone to watch the video? Like, okay, like if I frame it this way, is it going to be good enough for people to watch a video? What about lighting? What about audio? It's like these little micro things that people don't really think about. It's not necessarily only the concept that has to hit, it's these little things in between that like will keep a user's attention more than 1 second because that's really all you have. So yeah, it definitely translated into that for sure.
Okay, yeah, I figured, and
Yeah.
it's interesting of everything you're mentioning because I've actually so I don't know if you know this or not, but I have an MBA in marketing, so marketing and supply
Oh,
chain.
awesome. Oh, that's super cool. I did not know that. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, yeah. So like, I actually what you're saying resonates with me specifically because
Mhm.
I get exactly what you're saying. It's all the little things make all the difference when it comes to any kind of content creation. So
Yeah.
little things such as what like words you use that can make a huge difference,
Mhm.
right? The cover image. A good example is Mr. Beast on YouTube. He sometimes spends 5 to 10,000, even
Yeah.
$50,000 just for the thumbnail image, which
Literally.
is
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
crazy, but it makes all
It's
the difference.
unbelievable. Dude, it makes every difference. Like, yeah, I've heard of stories of like Mr. Beast. Like, so I know people out here in LA that like work with Mr. Beast pretty closely, and they were telling me things about like how like pretty much like Jimmy would like have a whole video made, and if there's one thing that's off, he would not post the video, even if you spend like millions
Yes.
of dollars on it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, that's crazy. But like, that's what it takes. Really, like you have to have a deep understanding of like this kind of stuff, in order to make it successful in this world. So yeah, what you're saying is like I totally get it, man. That's crazy.
Yeah. So,
Awesome. Awesome.
do you have any for any of our listeners that are either aspiring content creators or content creators today? Do you have any like basic tips that you think would be helpful for them?
Yeah, definitely. I think the biggest thing, dude, like, is just consistency and sustainability. What I mean by that is this, right? Whatever you do, like, think of like the content that you want to make. Oftentimes, people pre-plan it. They're like I've seen so many of my friends want to get into content. They're like, oh, like, but like before I do that, like I have to make sure my Instagram looks like crystal clear. I have to make sure this looks great. Like I have to pre-plan my first 20 videos. Like you don't need to do none of that, bro. Just post the video. Like post something. Like it's like I think people get caught up in like the branding side of things and like assume that they already have a following. But like these are things you don't worry about now. Like just like I think you just gotta just do it. Literally, like just post something. It doesn't have to be picture perfect. It doesn't have to, because it's gonna suck anyway. Like you just have to accept the fact that like anybody can go to their first video or first like post or whatever it may be, and it will always oftentimes be the worst thing ever because it's like you're still learning. You know what I mean? You can't learn until you post and like actually get in the game. You know what I mean? It's like trying to get good at like any sport. Like you can like read the books and you can like do everything, but unless you play the game, you're not really going to get good at the game. And so like you have to
Right.
just keep doing it. And what I mean by so like being consistent, like holding yourself accountable, make it a habit. I always say like if you eat, you breathe, you drink water, you post content. It's the same level of things that you should be on. So like if you're not going to go a day without eating, you're not going to go a day without drinking water. But how can you possibly go a day without posting content? You know what I mean? That being said, it doesn't have to be every single day. Find a schedule that works for you. It could be once a week, but like
Right.
hold yourself accountable. Like that should be a priority number one to get yourself in the rhythm of posting. Now, what I mean by sustainable is like what is something that you can do for a long period of time, right? Like if my content surrounds like pranking, right? Let's say I'm pranking someone, like I could like there's only like a short timeline of like how many people I can prank, right? Like I if I'm doing this every single week, I have to find people weekly, right? And like the logistics of that is like some people have done it. Like Nelk Boys obviously did a great job doing that. A lot of people have done it, but like if you just like don't have the bandwidth to do that, then it might not be the best avenue to like cross. Because if you post like 3 or 4 like pranking videos and you build an audience off of that, and then you like all of a sudden can't do that anymore because like you just don't have the bandwidth or you just stop enjoying it and you pivot, your audience is gonna be like, yo, what the heck? Like we just followed you because you were pranking. Now you're like a Disney Channel review like guy. Like, you know, it's like,
Jeez.
like you just gotta be like, you gotta find something that's sustainable. That being said, like you
Right.
can change it, right? You can always switch and pivot and move and be nimble, which is what you should do. But like these are just things like before anything else, just like pre-plan in your brain, like, okay, like if can I do reviews? Like, is that something that like I'm interested in? What am I first of all, what am I interested in? What can I post consistently? And what can I sustain like my brand, you know? And I think those are the 3 things that you should always keep in your mind before posting anything.
All right, that is awesome. It's funny because every content creator we brought on, they've always said the same thing, and the biggest one is consistency. That's what they've
Dude,
always said.
consistency is huge, man. I don't think if people understand like how important consistency is, because like that is literally like how you build anything, right? Like how you build a brand, how you build a company, how you build whatever, is like you gotta be consistent with what you do. And like that's such an important thing to have. Like if I would have hammered down anything, it's consistency. 100%.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Awesome. Awesome. So, just coming back to the discussion that we were having before. So, you
Yeah, yeah.
graduated with a major in neuroscience.
Yeah.
Did you also minor in theater, or was that
Yeah, I minored in
afterwards?
theater as well. Yeah.
I see. I see. All right. So, you minored in theater. So, basically, you graduated from college.
Yeah.
What was your next step, right? Did you know what were you going to do next, or like what was the. So, talk to us a little bit more about that. How did you find your way after you graduated?
Bro, it was so bad, man. Like I remember so I graduated in 2020, right? Like at the midst of like when COVID pretty much hit.
Oh
So
my
like I had
God.
my
Holy
senior year
shit.
chopped. Yeah, dude, I had my senior year chopped, and like this was also the worst time for me to have this mental debate of myself of like whether or not I want to be a doctor. So everything till that point was like, I'm going to be a doctor, like this is what I'm gonna do. But then, dude, when COVID hit, I had this like revelation for some reason. I'm like, I don't want to do this. But then I can't do anything else because every other job is canceled because of COVID, right? I can't work anywhere pretty much, nor do I have any experience anywhere. So I left college in the worst way possible, like pretty much not using my major, like not doing anything related to my major and trying to figure out what I'm going to do from square one. And that it was like the most stressful moment of my life because it was like, dude, I just didn't know what I was going to do. And like, I was trying to like seek advice from friends and things like that. And like, I was like, maybe I'm just going to like take the MCAT, see what happens. I remember like a specific image or a specific memory of like me being in like an MCAT group. Like I signed up for this MCAT class and like I'm in this group, right? And I remember one of the people was like, dude, I can't wait to get my white coat on and like cure people and like do this and do that. And I'm sitting there in my room. I'm like, dude, I could wait. Like I don't want to do it. Like I have all the I can wait for this. Like I have no reason to not. And that's when it hit me. I was like, this is not for me. So I was going through, I was ebbing and flowing into like different things, man. I hit up every connection I have. I was like, maybe I want to work at Amazon, like for some reason. Maybe I want to do this. Maybe I want to start my own company. Like, I don't know. Simultaneously, while I'm having this mental debacle, I was also posting content. So I've been posting content since I was like in Amsterdam, actually. So I've been posting content for like a
Oh,
long
really?
time. I've been involved with content like creation for like pretty much like ever since I can like pick up a phone, pick up a camera, like it's like I've done claymation, I've done like all these kind of skits and things like that. So it was something that was like not like super new to me. It was like TikTok was just a different avenue. And I was also doing a podcast with my roommate at the time. It was quarantine, so we're stuck in our college apartment. Can't really leave. So I'm sitting there stressed out of my mind, not knowing what I'm gonna do. But the one thing that I could do was like, I'm gonna make these podcasts. I'm gonna like post content and see what happens, right? So as it's kind of weird. It's like if you think about it, it's like almost like an inverse like relationship where it's like the more stressed I got, the more successful I got in content because I would just have to I needed something to like just like output. And so like I was like, okay, I'm just gonna like put all my stress into content and I just went super ham at it. And then I think eventually I was going through like different job paths. Like I mentioned, I got into consulting for a bit. I didn't like it at all. No offense, nothing against consulting. I just like it was just not for me, just because like I was more like on the creative side. I wanted to think like in that way, and it just didn't hit for me. And so then I got into like one of my friends, I interned at his company to do like social media, and then eventually I got a job in LA to do social media paid ads. Like I was like paid
Oh,
advertising, like
nice.
growth marketing. Yeah, and I found that super fun. It was like super entertaining for me. I was able to utilize my creativity and my analytic skills in like a way that I found fun. And yeah, I eventually found my groove, dude. I eventually got into like acting. Like I started focusing. I think at the end of the day, like to umbrella and like bow tie this up, pretty much what happened was I found myself, right? I understood who I am. I understand the traits that I have, regardless of like what other inputs I was getting from like family, from friends, from like whoever. Because everyone's telling me different things. My family's like, you should be a doctor. Friends are like, you should be business. You should go this. You should do that. But I never really listened to myself until that moment in time. And I don't think I would have had COVID not been around because I had no other option but to listen to myself. So I really just rolled the dice, took a chance, and like bet on myself. And I think that's the biggest bet you can take, right? Betting on yourself and like believing in yourself and like really truly believing like you can do what you want to do if you put your mind to it. Like I had no other option but to do that. And I did that and like it worked, and I think like it will always work if you believe in yourself. So that's pretty much what happened. I ended up just betting on myself and it worked.
That's amazing, and I think you hit a lot of good points there because the first thing is the self-confidence to take that plunge, right? That's the first thing. The second thing, as you mentioned earlier, is the nimbleness. So it's like if you see that
Mhm.
something's not working, you know to pivot and to have confidence in the ability to pivot. And then I think the third thing, which you also described, is the consistency, right? It's like anything you do, if you're going to be discouraged because it doesn't happen in 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, whatever, then it's unlikely to be a success. But if you still stick with it, you keep on going, you post consistently, or whatever, it doesn't have to be content, but whatever it is you do consistently, you're more likely to learn from those experiences and then get better and better as you keep doing it. So
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
it's interesting because I wonder if, would you say your mindset on in that approach comes from your background in neuroscience, or would you say it's just something that's happened through like experience, like life experiences?
That's a really good question, man. I think a little bit of both. I think just the way I was growing up, my parents have always been sort of like uh executors. That sounded so weird. That sounded so bad.
Yeah.
My parents have been executing people like pop pop. No, no, no. Like they've always just like executed on their things like they wanted to do. Like my mom, she's like an award-winning filmmaker. She's like done films. She ran a marathon. Like she just like done. She's an Indian mom. You know what I mean? Like, they don't just run marathons, but like they've always just been like above and beyond. Like I'm just going to like do what I want to do and like achieve what I want to achieve and like like I'm not listening to anyone else but like myself and the clear path ahead. So I've seen that growing up with both my parents, and obviously that helped me, believe in myself and believe in my dreams. And obviously they're supportive of what I do. Like my parents were not like, I mean, it took a little bit of convincing of like, because they were just unclear as to what content creation was and what like acting really was. Like, they like know of it, but it's not like I can't explain to my mom like, hey, like I'm getting paid through brand deals, like I'm getting paid through like these sponsorships. She's like, what does that even mean? Like I'm like, it's like it's a whole different world for them. So like I think explaining to them that was one thing, but like, yeah, dude, I think like that plus the like, obviously being pre-med in college is like not easy. Like I had to be disciplined, I had to be structured, I had to like I had no other option but to be. And so I think like there was a lot. I say I was privileged enough to like be in that environment where like I was able to get like a super disciplined background and like be disciplined to myself, like self-discipline, to like hold myself accountable to certain things. Like I never let myself off easy. Like I always am the most critical person to myself, and I always want to achieve what I want to achieve, not in like an ego way, but more so like I want to just level up what I want to do. I'm like, okay, cool, Sachin, this is great, but like, what can we do next? Let's figure it out. And I think I've always just thought in that way. So based off of my upbringing and probably because of like school as well.
Okay,
That's very,
wow.
very inspiring. Yeah. First of all, I had to say that. Yeah, this, all the grind, obviously it's not easy. It's kind of easy for you to kind of share, but I'm sure there's a lot of, tough days you've seen and just trying to
Oh
figure
yeah.
out, what to do next. And, it's just, it's not all hunky dory as they say.
No,
So kudos to you
absolutely,
for being
man.
able to do
Dude,
that.
thank you, man. Thank you, man. Yeah, dude, it definitely wasn't easy, man. I remember like just one like story of like I have it like locked in my brain like pretty much post COVID. I moved into my parents' house because like I had no job or nothing. And I had nowhere to go, right? I was after college. I'm like at home. And I remember like not knowing what I'm doing. I'm literally making a TikTok and I'm like, what am I doing? Like I was like, why am I doing this? I'm like 22 or whatever. I'm like making TikTok videos. Like, why am I here? And then like I remember like scrolling through my phone and like, dude, all of my friends are like dental school, like for like private equity, whatever. It's like they were just getting these crazy career paths, making money. And like I was just sitting there, I was like, bro, like I'm not moving. Like I'm stuck here. And like, dude, I'll never forget that because that was the thing that like really lit a fire like under my butt. And I was like, dude, I gotta move. I gotta get out of this situation because this is like not where I want to be like ever. You know, and I don't want to be stuck in my parents' house. I don't want to be like unclear on what I want to do. So, like it really like helped me move forward for sure. I think everyone just needs that experience to like help them like push forward in some way, shape, or
Right.
form.
Do you think
Yeah.
that that entire situation helped you to become a lot more resourceful and scrappy? And the reason I asked that is because we actually brought on a guest for recording, which is going to be releasing in 2 weeks in episode 18, which was a similar like I guess background to you in some ways because it was this guy that basically was in the Air Force. So I guess that part's different. But then he went from the Air Force to basically finessing his way into a lot of different content creation opportunities. So he basically bought all-inclusive backseat passes to like an EDM festival and like did videography for the EDM festival, like basically partying with like Marshmello, with Steve Aoki and
That's
Chainsmokers
dope.
and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then like that's what sparked his interest in content creation. And then like after that, he finessed his way to doing it again officially because the first time was off the
Amazing.
books. Like he
Yeah.
wasn't even allowed to take video of it there,
Oh,
and he still
what?
did it.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
crazy. Oh, wow. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, so like he wasn't even allowed to do it, but he finessed his way to do that. And like now he's actually also in LA and he's doing like a lot of content creation with like cars and like basically all these types of supercars. And so I
Very
guess in general, like would you say that your experiences of getting that fire lit under you that helped you to become more scrappy and just like I can't fail type of mentality where you just like leverage every connection you can, every creative thought you can to make things work? Or like how would you describe that?
Definitely, 100%, man. I always say it's like there's this mindset or this quote that I have. I can't remember where it's from. I think it's from a movie or something. But they were like, "Fear is healthy, panic is deadly." So like I kept like thinking back that it's like okay, like if I panic, I act in desperation, and when you act in desperation, things don't often go your way because you're like desperate, you're trying to figure it out, like you're trying to do something, and like eventually, like it won't work, right? So if you act in desperation through panic like you're never gonna figure it out. But like I had to like hone in on my like I really had no other option but to be scrappy. I think when you're pinned against the wall and you have nowhere to turn, like you have to figure it out, right? Like I had no choice. And so I was leveraging connections, but in a way that I was like not desperate. I wasn't acting in desperation. It was more so like I was kind of I was like, if it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. But like, I know the fear that I have, and it's healthy. It's good to be fearful in these certain situations. I'm glad I'm fearing this situation because if I wasn't and I was content living in my parents' house, I think I would not be having this conversation here with you guys. So like, I think it's like I was definitely scared. But yeah, dude, yeah, man, I was resourceful, dude. I had to do everything I could. Like I said, I interned for my friend's startup, and he was just starting it up. Like I did random projects. I got into UX design for a little bit. I don't even like
Oh
I didn't know
wow.
that. Yeah, like so there's this guy. I'm actually working on a company with him right now. But he was like a Forbes 30 on 30 dude. Like he offered me a brand deal for like one of his apps that he was working on. That was like my first ever brand deal. And then we just became really close. And like he was like just this really smart dude building companies like this guy like just like went to Harvard, he's like the token like smart guy. And like I remember like I would always lean to him because I was like, yo, like I just I had like just questions about like my life and things like that. And so I remember he would just give me opportunities. He's like, hey, look, you want to get into UX design? Here's like a Figma file, just like play with it, think about like a sandbox thing, just like mess around, figure it out. And so like I would always like have these people that I would have around me that were like just giving me things to do. And like I eventually found my own interest because like you can't really tell someone what to do if like or how like you need to go here because like it's not like what you want to do, right? It's like
Mm-hmm.
you got to figure it out on your own given the resources that you're obtaining, right? So like I think like I was privileged enough to like have these people around me who were giving me these things to do, and eventually I found my path.
Got
Wow.
it. Yeah, thank
Wow.
you. Thank you for sharing that. That makes
Of
a lot of
course, man.
sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Sachin, what's the story behind your handle, Skachi?
Yeah, that's a great question, man. Everyone asks me this. It's actually interesting. So back in college, I used to DJ actually. So I DJ'd throughout college. I got
Oh
into like
wow.
concert
Okay.
promotion. Yeah, dude. So like I was like big into DJing. I DJ'd like frats, pretty much bars. And then eventually I booked out like venues. Like there's this thing called the Riverboat, which was like a 3-deck boat. I'd book it out, sell tickets, make money, and like that was kind of how I made money in college. Like I also modeled and shit, but like that was like kind of like what I did for the most part. Anyway, like I had to think of a name, and I was like, okay, like, I need to have like some sort of branding name, like something that pops, right? My nickname back home is Sachi. My friends call me Sachi. Like my good friends, they're like, oh, Sachi, do this, Sachi, do that, right? And so I was like, oh, like Sachi makes sense. Like I think it's like, it's whatever. It's like fine. Like, and I remember I met a girl, like there's like this person that I knew really well, and her name was Sachi. And I was like, oh, like it would be weird if I used her name. Like, why would I know her really well. It's like, why would I change my to her name? And my
Yeah,
last name is Kumar, and so I kind of like combined the two to Scotchy. And
I
like
see.
I was thinking also like DJs like Avicii, like Scotchy, and I was like, oh, it kind
Yeah.
of works like
Ah,
and
Yeah.
it's like a
Got
nickname,
it.
and I was like, like I think I'll stick with it, see what happens, and like I guess we just stuck with it, man, and yeah, got the username there.
wow.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. That's really
Yeah,
That's
cool.
pretty. That's
And
pretty interesting.
what is
yeah,
interesting is that it seems like you've experimented and tried so many different types of
yeah.
creative what's the word, creative formats, I guess, right? Because you
Hmm.
talk about
Hmm.
podcasts, you talk about DJing, you talked about acting, you talked about content creation, I'm sure plenty of other things, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
would you say that there's similarities between all those different platforms, or do you think the approach varies dramatically? Oh, actually, you also mentioned charcoal painting and a bunch of other stuff as well. I forgot about that.
Yeah, yeah. Dude, yeah, I think it's weird because like there is similarities to all of these different things. But like it is different, right? Like I like charcoal painting, like if someone's like a really good painter, doesn't mean they're gonna like make an amazing video, right? It's like they're like those mediums are different, but they're all in the same umbrella of like art, right? And I always consider myself an artist, like more than like a content creator, more than like an actor, whatever. It's like I really do think in like an artistic way. Like that's just how I approach life and how I think of things. And so like the way I sort of approach any situation is like in an artistic way is like I don't know. It's like it's hard to explain, but it's like you can apply art to anything pretty much, right? It's like this table that I'm looking at, like this is technically an art piece. Someone had to develop this, someone had to make this the structure of it, right? It's like it's art. And so to me it's art. Someone else it might just be a table, right? Like but to me I'm like, whoa, this is like really cool. So to answer your question, it's like yeah, like like what drawing is like you have to think in a certain way to like depict an image, and like charcoal drawing specifically, like you have to get the shadows right, and like you have to be just visually like I guess savvy, like you just have to like visually be able to see things in different ways. But that being said, like I don't think there's like I always think like anybody can do anything. Like I don't think like I have some sort of special gift that like, I can only do this and no one else can. I think like I just leaned into what I was interested in. I'm sure everyone has interest in what they want, and if you just lean into those interests, like you can probably get really good at those interests, especially because you have an innate like belief and like I guess like interest in like what you wanted to do. So if like someone wanted to get into art, like it wouldn't be hard to just like look into different types of there's so many mediums, right? Like I've tried so many different things. Just because like again, I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like I had no ambition. Like I was kind of like, I'm just gonna try this and it's fun for now. And then I pivot. Like I'm currently on the TikTok acting track, but like that could very easily pivot to something else, I'm never
Mhm.
hard set on anything. I like to be nimble, I like to move around, and like that's kind of how I like to do things.
Yeah. So basically, it sounds like there is a theory. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's called micro experimentation, right?
Mm.
Where you kind of dabble into different things, try to figure out, whether you like it or not, and then go from there. Really, whether you have to kind of go deeper into that or not, and then that's how kind of you
Mm.
progress. So it sounds like you're doing a lot of that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
again, I mean, love to love to see that because both Ketul and I mean, the reason why we started this podcast because is also because we had interests in different areas, different
Mm.
avenues, and we thought, hey, what's the best way to kind of bring it all together, right? So that one
Mm.
way was to kind of bring guests like yourselves, and then
Yeah.
that's why we are actually in the first place.
Yeah.
So
No, that's
so
awesome,
that's
man.
a
I'm so glad you guys are doing this, man. It's like such an amazing thing. And like I'm sure like I
mhm.
don't know, podcasting is always fun because like you just like learn someone's story and like it's just a
Hmm.
conversation at the end of the day. It's like, it's super cool, man. So
Right.
I honestly applaud you guys for doing what you're doing, man. It's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I have another question for you, Sachin.
Yeah.
So I know you're a big into content creation nowadays.
Yeah.
What is that one myth that you would like to bust about content creation that people don't really know about?
Mm, that's an excellent question. One myth that I would like to bust. Okay, one myth that I'd like to bust is that content creation is easy. I think
Mm.
oftentimes I hear this a lot from my non-content creator friends of like, oh, like you have girls like Charlie D'Amelio and Addison Rae just like dancing, and like it's like anyone can do that. It's like, super easy. But like in reality, it's actually extremely hard. Like the content itself is like one thing, but like to post at that scale, to like get at that level, to reach out to think about a content creator like you're your own like artist, you're your own like art director, you're your own brand director, you're your own CEO, you're your own negotiator, you're your own businessman. Like you are your own all of these things. Like as a
Right,
content creator, right? You have
right,
to,
right.
you're the one negotiating contracts with big companies, agencies, this, right? You're the one branding yourself. You're the one like doing everything. Like you're a one man, one woman, one shop, right? And that's the thing that I don't think people understand. It's like, like Addison Rae, Charlie D'Amelio, it's not just like them like dancing on camera. Like that's not it. Like they are branding themselves. They are posting at scale. They're doing all these different things that like you don't see that go beyond like behind the camera. Like most of the work in content creation is behind the camera. Scripting,
Right.
writing, books, what's working, what's not working. Like what is the ending? What's like the middle look like? What is like the climax of this video going to be like? What is the jump start? What is the like punchline? Like these little micro things that like make a simple video, like a 10-second video, it's just so much science to it.
Hmm.
So like I think a lot of times people just see it like, as humans, we just like are on social media, we scroll, 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 scroll. You don't really think about like content creators. As I don't think you should. Like it's not really like if you're not a content creator, it's like why would you? You're just watching for entertainment, whatever, right? But like I think
Hmm.
like the myth that like I think like I would like to bust is definitely that it's like an easy thing to do. It's super simple. Anyone can do it. Dude, it's a lot of work, man. It's a lot of hustle and it's a lot of sacrifice too. Like I can't tell you how many times like I've had to like ditch my friends or like miss work and like do random things just like post a video on the time that I have to post a video or like call a brand or something. Like I have to do something related to that field. It's like there's so many times where I've had to miss opportunities with like my close friends because of things that I have to do. So like it's a lot of sacrifice, man. It's a lot of work. And it definitely takes time.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's interesting because what that reminds me of is that famous quote that it takes like a decade of experimentation and learning to become an overnight success.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So like
Absolutely.
from like
Yes,
the outside
literally.
eye, from the outside eye, it's like, oh, this person became an overnight success. Like if, for example, if they just became big because of one song or like whatever it might be, right? But the
Yeah.
reality is, if you think about it, how long did they have to learn about songwriting if they wrote their own song? How long did they have to, learn how to sing the right way to get the music, the music in the back, like background music in line with the lyrics and all, I mean, all the fine tuning that's required. That takes a lot of work.
Dude, absolutely, man. Even marketing, right? It's like once you have the
Hmm.
perfect package, you could be like the superstar, right? You could have the best song ever, but if you can't market yourself correctly, like it's not going to go anywhere, right? I know so many talented like content creators that make like insane videos that I'm like, dude, this deserves more views than like I'm getting for sure. I like more views than anybody. Like this is like crazy, but like they just don't know how to market themselves, right? And like that's also a
Right.
key thing. So like I don't know, man. I think it's like it's a lot of work. And it definitely like I'm sure a lot of content creators could attest to it. It's like takes time, man. Takes time. It's definitely not easy.
Okay.
Okay, awesome. Um, do you have any questions, Epam? Otherwise, we can probably move to rapid fire.
Yeah, I just have one question, which
Yeah.
is related to content creation. So, what is your process? Like, how do you walk us through? How do you come up with the idea, and then do you write a script? How things gonna go, and then from recording, editing, publishing, and then marketing.
Yeah,
Lot of
yeah,
questions.
absolutely, absolutely. I think like it's interesting because like I know so many people's processes are so different. Like I don't know if you know like Aman or whatever, like Magic Man, dude. His
Yep.
process is like extremely different than mine. It's like, but like where I kind of like come into play is like I think I don't want to say it just comes to me, but like I think if you condition your brain in any way to think creatively every single day, like naturally you start thinking of more ideas, right? It's like with anything. If I think of like
Okay.
how to like fix something, like how to fix like headphones every single day, if that's my thing every single day, every hour I'm fixing a headphone. Naturally, I'm gonna think of it like life in that way. You know what I mean? Like so when I'm like making content, eventually I start thinking in that way. I was like, oh, like this is like I'll be with like my content creator friends and something will happen. I'm like, oh, that's a funny skit idea. A lot of my skits are like they actually happen, but they're like hyperbolized in my videos. But like a
Of
lot of
course.
them, probably 90% of them, like legitimately happen. I'm like, that's a funny thing in my head. I dock it. But in order to like to be more specific, like what I'll do is like I have dedicated like content times, right? Where it's like this time to this time, I'm doing nothing apart from just like writing and like figuring out concepts that work. So I'll like deep dive into my own content. I'll deep dive into like For You page. I'll see like what's working, what's not. Like why did that video flop for me? Like what should I fix? What's the problem? And I really do a in-depth like analysis for it. And then I start jotting different ideas. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like what can I film next week? I usually film like I don't film Saturdays, but I'll film like Sunday through pretty much Friday. Maybe like with some days in between that I don't film, but like for the most part, that many days. And I'm like, okay, like what am I posting each day? Like what does my schedule look like? So I'm gonna post this like low lift video that takes me maybe like 20 minutes to film. And then I have a video that might take like 2 hours to film. And I'll post that on Wednesday, like or like Thursday. What I like, so I kind of structure it in a weird way. It's kind of a messy answer, but it's like it really just like I just have certain times that I like block myself
Mm.
off that I'll like look at like my videos, do content, write videos and stuff like that. I film it, right? I have a ring light. I have like equipment here that I'll film the videos in. I usually edit some of my videos in Final Cut Pro, so I'll put it in my computer, edit it up, make sure it's good. Sometimes I'll extend it in my content. I have a content creator like group chats. I have multiple of these, but like I'll put it in one of them. I'll be like, "Do you guys think it's good?" Obviously, like the only person that can say like yes or no is like content creators because like I can't tell. My non-content creator friends they'll be like it's fine, whatever. But like content creator friends will be like, oh, like the hook is off, like this lighting is different, like these little micro things that like I just couldn't
Mm-hmm.
see or whatever. And dude, then I'll schedule the video and post it, man. So like I try to post like pretty much every day on Instagram. TikTok, I'm kind of moving away from, just because like I just prefer Instagram and YouTube a little bit more.
I was gonna say
Um,
YouTube Shorts.
yeah,
You heard
YouTube
about
Shorts,
the
man.
creator fund or what it's called, the
Yeah,
profit
yeah, the
split that they're
creator.
doing?
Yeah,
That's gonna be insane.
it's amazing. It's amazing, man. And I work closely with YouTube Shorts, so like I like do a lot of YouTube Shorts work. From going to like events, like talking to the people. I have a YouTube Shorts manager. And like dude, like they say every time, man, like exactly what you're saying. It's like they're like YouTube Shorts is gonna be the next big thing, right? And it's like way more
Mm-hmm.
fun to be on YouTube, I think. And at the end of the day, that's like the platform that everyone will be on at the end of the day. So like, but
It's
no,
always
Yeah.
been YouTube, I think. When it comes to the
yeah,
monetization of content, nothing has nothing like
Nothing
really
else.
beats YouTube to this day.
nothing will, dude. I don't think anything
Yeah.
will. I think YouTube is just like they've done it for so long, and they have just a much better, robust system than like TikTok. I really think my hypothesis TikTok is going to like wean away and it's going to get rebranded into another app at some point in time, maybe in like 5-10 years, whenever.
I feel like it's
But
gonna get
YouTube is
acquired.
gonna
I feel like it's gonna get
exactly
acquired.
something like that, right? Yeah, it might get acquired. Something might happen, right? It's not going to be TikTok though. I feel like it's going to be something else. Something's going to happen. But I think at the end of the day, everyone's going to move towards YouTube. I think that's going to be the goal. I think that's what's going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to backtrack 1 second because you mentioned about how you start to see content ideas in everything you do
Yeah.
in like your daily life. I find
Yeah.
that interesting because I have a very strong suspicion you're getting that from neuroscience. And the reason I say that is because there's also the idea of like I don't think the word is confirmation bias, but it's close enough. Where like for
Mm,
example, let's say you bought a Volkswagen, right?
mhm,
Before every day you would have never noticed like Volkswagens on the road because
mhm.
it's it's just another car. But as soon as you bought a Volkswagen, now you notice every single Volkswagen that's on the road. I think
Ah,
it's like a similar thing to what you're saying, where it's because
yeah.
in the past you never make those connections, but because you started creating content, you're like, wow, that's a funny moment. I know I can make content about that. Like you just have like a greater
Mm.
appreciation and a greater focus on noticing those things.
Yeah,
That's
and
definitely true.
consciousness.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. I didn't even think about it that way. But like, yeah, that's probably what's happening. It's naturally noticing things that are like, yeah, that's a good point. That's interesting. Yeah, I'll lock that in.
Awesome. All right. So, Sachin, I guess we can move on to our next segment of the discussion, which is rapid fire. Doesn't need to
Okay.
just, first thing comes to mind. All right, let's start with the first one. Tea or coffee?
T.
Okay. Mountains or beaches?
What was that?
Mountains or beaches?
Beaches. 100%.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, you're in LA, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
I was gonna say the tea might be Euro inspired because your time in Amsterdam.
Yeah. I also think
Or
like I like
Indian
chai.
inspired.
Like I drink chai all the time. So like I don't know if that's like I guess it's kind of in the middle of tea and coffee, but I would say it's more of a tea. So like that's why I said tea also, just because like
Got it.
All
yeah.
right. All right. So, morning person or night owl?
Mm, I, Dude, I think both. I hate to be that guy, but it's like I wake up at like 7 a.m. to go to the gym, but I also stay up to like 3 a.m. So like I only sleep like 5 hours a night, and
Oh
like that's like
wow.
what I
How
yeah
do you
yeah.
do that?
Dude,
Oh
I
man,
don't know. I don't know. I just am one of those people that only needs 5 hours to be a functioning human being, and I'll be fine. Like I don't need
I'm so
more than
jealous.
that. Yeah, I don't know, dude. It's like it's kind of a gift and a curse, man. Because I'll
Yeah,
feel
yeah, no,
myself
it's
getting
actually
tired,
a
but
gift.
it's like I can't
It's
sleep. It's like
actually, I was reading about it. Some people have genetics wired that
mm,
way, that they are perfectly fine just with like
The
few
the
hours of
Thatcher
sleep.
gene. Yeah, I've heard of that too.
yeah.
The
Yeah.
Thatcher gene. Oh well, okay. Well, you have a background in genetics. You can confirm it. Is that a true thing? The Thatcher gene.
Dude, I have no
I don't
idea.
think he wants to kind of look back on all
Yeah,
this.
dude, that gave me the PTSD just now.
I feel like I'm making connections that you're not even realizing because I
Yeah, I
keep
mean, you're
referencing
making
No,
stuff you
connections.
said
I'm just
before.
like sweating. I'm like, oh my god. All I can think about is my professor. Oh my god.
all right. Coming back to the round here. So, what's your favorite comfort food?
Comfort food? Ooh, that's a good question, man. I'm a big like snack guy. Like I love snacks. Like I don't know why. I just eat so many snacks. I like popcorn is like always my go-to. Um, but like I would say my favorite comfort food, like when I'm just tired. I want to watch a nice movie and like eat some food. I would definitely get sushi. That is like the food that I
Nice.
always go
Okay.
to. I actually make sushi at home too. So like I just have such a strong appreciation for sushi. Like for some reason, I don't know why. I think that's my comfort food for sure. Or biryani, bro. Biryani is like
Ah, there
it's
you
either
go.
that or sushi. Like if I can have both, like I'm in heaven, dude. Like I don't need to talk to anybody at that moment.
Maybe some kind of fusion, right? Some kind of fusion.
Uh, exactly. Yeah, yeah. There you go.
Cool, cool. All right. What's your favorite virtue in others?
My favorite what?
Virtue in others. What quality in others?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think compassion. I think at the end of the day, it's like I'm really into like just like nice people. Like I don't know, like it,
Hmm.
it sounds like super basic and super like obvious, but like in reality, it's like, dude, in this world, like in content creation and acting, you come across non-authentic people all the time. And like it's kind of tough because like you never really know like what angle they're working or like if they're trying to like do something. And like I think you can always tell. And like if you meet just like a genuine, like honest, like compassionate person, like at least for me, I could always like just tell instantly. It's like, oh, like this person is just a nice person. That's like my go-to quality in anybody. It's like I just look for that. Obviously, like I'm not saying everyone has to be like the nicest person ever, but it's like, you know what I mean? Just
Hmm.
genuinely just like
Yeah,
a
yeah,
nice
of
human
course.
being. Like I think that's like what I would say for sure.
Amazing, amazing. What's your biggest pet peeve?
Dude, I have a few, man. I think
All right, let's go.
let's see, let's see. I mean, where do I should pull out my scroll of just pet peeves. Dude, I think one of my biggest pet peeves is like I mean, I have like little ones and big ones. A couple little ones is like when people like chew like super loud with their mouth open. I don't know why. Like, look, like at the end of the day, it's like I understand people have different chewing habits. It's like fine, but for some reason, it always ruins my appetite every time. Like I can't if I'm eating
Oh
something and I
man.
hear
Okay.
someone going like, "Glum, glum," bro, I'm just like I can't eat anymore, bro. It's like done. Oh my god. And then like another pet peeve of mine is like it's mostly like you could probably see it in my TikToks is like especially aunties and uncles that like they're mostly do this, but like they ask it's like, oh, like how much do you make? Like what are you doing? Where are you going?
I've seen those
Oh,
videos of yours. Yeah, I've
Dude,
heard that.
I'm just like,
yeah,
bro,
yeah.
why are you asking me the same question I'm like, I just talked to you yesterday. Nothing changed from yesterday to today. It's like, I don't know, man. I think those are I think I have a few others, but I think
I
like
got
those are
one
my
more
favorite.
for you. Homework.
Yeah. Huh?
Homework.
Homework.
Homework. Oh my god. I still don't understand it, bro. Why do we need homework? Like, why doing it at
Oh
home?
God.
Oh my god. That is definitely the biggest pet peeve.
Amazing, amazing. Love that. All right. So, what's your secret superpower that people don't know about?
Ooh, that's a great question. That's a really great question. A lot of people don't know, and like I don't really post about this, but like I'm really big into like martial arts and like flips and things like that. Like I do a lot of
Oh,
parkour.
really?
Yeah, yeah. So
Really?
I've grown up. Yeah, I was a wrestler in high school. Like I wrestled in middle school. I was almost a black belt in Taekwondo. I did judo for 2 years, MMA for like 3 years. I'm like a big like into like that kind of scene. I don't like watch like UFC or anything, but like I like used to train just because like I was a big fitness buff. And yeah, dude, like I trained, like I used to do tricking, like wall flips, like running up the wall, doing backflips, like side flips, like back, like all kinds of random flips. Um, I just was always into like Bruce Lee as like growing up, and like martial arts has sort of been like a huge part of my life. But like for some reason I don't post about it. I really don't know why I
I
don't post
was
about it.
I
But
was
like
just gonna ask. It's like at
yeah,
least I mean I've seen some of your content. I don't remember seeing anything like flip or
yeah.
parkour or anything related like that. So
Yeah, I don't post about it. I really don't know why. I guess I don't know. Maybe I'll start posting about it more. Yeah, I don't know. Like, yeah, I definitely think, but that's definitely a hidden talent. Like a lot more, even my closest friends don't know I do stuff like this.
oh
Wow,
wow.
Yeah, yeah,
that's great. All right, so next question:
yeah.
what's a superpower you wish you had?
Like it could be like a legit superpower, like any random superpower.
It could be unrealistic. It's fine.
Unrealistic, dude. Definitely
Yeah.
time travel. Oh my god,
Nice.
I would kill to have time travel, dude. There's been so many moments where I'm just like, if I could just change what I did or like change like this moment,
So
it'd be
time,
great.
yeah, just to make sure, time travel meaning you go back in time and change a few things, or is it teleportation? Like
Ooh,
just to,
that's a good. Okay, that's a good point. I think I think
both.
time travel. Where yeah,
Okay.
both would be great. I would love both. But like, I think specifically like going back in time or going forward in time. I think like
Okay.
yeah, I would say like I think the one thing that we can't change in life is time, and I think like being able
Okay.
to have that ability to change time is like it would be super pivotal. So I think definitely
Amazing.
time travel. Yeah.
Is there
Okay. So
any moment in history or the future that you'd want to go to?
Dude, just for my own pure curiosity, I would love to go to the Triassic period and just like see the dinosaurs,
Nice.
just like just for a hot second, and then go back. Um, but nah, man, I don't know. There's like I've always just like I don't know, man. Like, there's not really anything like that sticks out to me. I think it would just like I would if I really had a time machine, I would probably just like knowing me go to like random moments in time, just like, oh, that's interesting. I'm just gonna like chill with like these British people for a minute, and then like go to like dinosaur town, and then just like I don't know, hop around like with these Native Americans. Like I'm just gonna like I don't know. I would just kind of like just travel random places just to check out.
If it
I
was
Um,
do the
me,
same.
yeah, I
I
would
would
do
do
the
the
same. I
same.
was gonna say I'd go to like all the most memorable moments and just like have my photograph taken. So like when people see pictures, like you see your face everywhere.
yo,
Oh,
like
that's a good one.
how are
That's a
you
good
there,
one,
bro?
Ketan.
Like how are you in this picture? Like I don't know, man.
You could be like, that's my great 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 grandfather or something like that. Make
Exactly.
sure
It's like yeah, yeah,
have an
dude. Like,
excuse for each one.
exactly.
Yeah, it's like
It's like
I come from I come
you're
from a
How
wearing
about
long
your
Last
generation of
Supper?
lookalikes.
yeah, you're wearing
Yeah, I
Hollister
mean,
though. How does that make sense? Like you're in like the dinosaur
like
people.
imagine this guy shows up in Last Supper. That'd be hilarious.
Yeah, oh my god.
Ah,
It's like why do you have an Abercrombie jacket on? Like you're in the Last Supper. Like how does that make sense? Like,
oh my
God,
God.
man, that'd be so funny.
Okay, so I guess the next question I have is specifically for you. So since
Yeah.
you've done, I'm just gonna read here. It's a long list. So you've done
Mhm.
wrestling, you've done acting, your content creation. I believe you've done theater. So
Yeah.
if you were to pick one thing today that you
Mhm.
would do for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Ooh, that is a great question, man. That is such a great question. I honestly, I don't know, man. If I really had to pick, it would probably be like content creation. Just because I think with content creation, like you can control your own narrative. Whereas with acting, you have to like wait on agents. You have to wait. You're like playing a role in someone else's vision. Whereas in content
Hmm.
creation, like you're the director, you're the actor, you're like whatever. Like I can make myself a superhero if I wanted to, you know. And like I think that's something that like being able to control your own narrative is something that's super important. You can control kind of your own life essentially. But that being said, it's like I say that very hesitantly because there's like I don't think I would ever in my life do just one thing at one time. Like I'd like to do multiple things. And I just have multiple interests. So like in the time that I'm living in now, like in this moment in time, I'd probably choose content. But like
Yeah.
maybe next year, 3 years, I might be like video or like claymation. I don't know. Like I might be a pop singer. Like who knows where I'll be, man? Like
Yeah. And to your
yeah,
point, I think content creation does combine a lot of different disciplines as well. It's not just,
yeah,
filming. It's just, writing.
absolutely.
You just have a concept, a design, and you have to then market. Like there's a lot of elements to it itself. So
Absolutely,
I
great
absolutely.
answer. 10 on 10.
I actually have one question. So you're really
Yeah,
big on related content creation, right?
yeah.
Would you ever consider like stand-up comedy, like as like a logical pivot?
Yeah, dude. Everyone's asked me this question actually. Like, this is so funny because like I've been like this is crazy. Like a lot of my friends have asked me these questions. Dude, I've done stand up actually. I've done it twice. it's super fun. I love it. I think the only thing is I would consider it. It's just a whole different discipline. Like
I
you,
see.
in order to be a really successful and really good comic, like stand up comic, you really need to be going to open mics like every single day, right? Because like when you start off as a stand up comedian, like no one's gonna give you like a time slot. Like you have to like really get in the mix, and they might give you like a 1 minute time slot where like you have 1 minute of material. And like in order to like really know if that material is successful or not, like you have to have make people laugh. Like with content, like I don't need to necessarily make people laugh. Like if they smile, they chuckle, whatever, like they share the video, that's all that I really care about. But like to get someone to laugh, like you have to make them really go past that of just a chuckle. You know what I mean? They have to really laugh. And let's say I test like a 1 minute like piece to like a certain group of people, but it's the wrong demographic. Like I will never. Then in my head, I'm like, oh, like they didn't laugh. It's probably a bad joke, but like maybe it's the wrong people. But I wouldn't know that unless I tried on the right people, and I wouldn't be able to do
I
that unless I'm
see.
doing it every day. So it's like a whole different discipline. I think like that's the thing. It's like I'm not as interested in that right now. To do all that homework and like to like homework, but to do all that like work to kind of like get to the point where like I would be a successful comedian. I think like where my focus is at right now is like acting, film. Like I'm really into that kind of world right now, and I want to put like the energy that I have like in that direction. But maybe at some point, I'm not totally like shadowing it, but like currently not. But like at some point, maybe. Like I do have an interest in it, so we'll see if that ends up like doing something with it.
Okay,
Great.
fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. So just finish the rapid fire. I know we jumped here and there as well, but what's been your biggest accomplishment in the last 1 or 2 years? I know you talked about it a little bit, finding yourself. Is that the biggest one,
Yeah.
or is there anything else?
Um. Yeah. Yeah. I would say like I have like one like more like big accomplishment that's like more related to me and like specific examples of accomplishments. But like a big accomplishment I would say is like, yeah, dude, like finding myself, like getting more related to like my culture. I think that's the biggest thing. In college when I went to like even in Michigan, dude, like I didn't really have like a strong connection to like Indian culture. Like I grew up in a very traditional Indian household, and like I had Desi friends and everything, but like I wasn't in like dance teams. Like I never did like that kind of stuff. And like coming here, like to LA, all of my friends are Desi. Everyone does like dance. Everyone is like involved in like these different things. So I'm able to like understand kind of like the world that they came from, the world that I came from, and like get way more closer to that world. Like we watch like Bollywood movies all the time, like all the time. And so like it's like I mean I did that at home, but I would never like by myself turn on a Bollywood movie. Whereas here, like I find myself oftentimes just like watching like Mehuna like in my room, like it's just like random stuff that I'm like I think I got really close to my culture, and I think like yeah, I think that like is a leg under like finding myself in like that accomplishment. I
Right.
think there, and then also, dude, I think like another accomplishment is like make it. It's just like so like deep, but like I think being able to like make my parents proud. I think that's like the biggest thing. Oftentimes like they were obviously concerned with what I was doing, and like they didn't know what the hell was going on, and like for them being in this like little ecosphere of like auntie town, like my mom has to like show face, and like all of everyone's kids are like doctors and stuff. And my mom, they're like, yo, like what is your son doing? My mom's like, yo, I don't even know. And like obviously like my parents are super supportive, but like being like no parent wants like be like, yo, my son is just like, I don't know, man. Like, he's just like here. So I think being able to like make my parents proud in like ways that like are different from the community. I've become sort of like this like
Yeah.
trailblazer in my community, where it's like a lot of kids are going up to my parents and being like, yo, like I want to do what Sachin's doing, like and like I've been like recognized in front of my parents, and I've been like I was on like GQ. I'm not saying that to like say that, but I'm just like saying that to like to show like that like these things are like the things that my parents are able to understand. Like they understand what GQ magazine is. They understand being recognized. It's like they don't understand like if I got a brand deal or not. Like that's not something that they get.
Yeah.
But like for people
Right.
to come up to my parents and be like, oh, like I know I want to meet such and whatever. It's like that's something that like they can be like, oh, like maybe my son is doing something that's like pretty cool. Like, and so I think like having that ability to make my parents like proud and like proud to be like, yo, like I'm happy with what Sachin's doing, and I'm happy to share that with the community and stuff like that is something that I take deeply. So I think that was a big accomplishment for me.
That is absolutely beautiful. Thanks for
Thanks.
sharing that.
Of course,
Yeah,
man. Of course.
it's interesting because it also seems a lot of the recent content you've been posting has been surrounding brown culture. So I can definitely see
Yeah.
that parallel between all your recent influences with getting closer to brown culture and some of the comedic skits you've been putting together.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. It all is kind of tying together, man. It's interesting. It's super interesting.
All right. I mean, unless we have any other questions, Deepam usually has a final question that he likes to ask. Deepam, if you
All
want to
right.
go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, it's nothing to be scared of, but we, so all of our guests, like, what is one piece of recommendation that you have for our listeners? And a recommendation could be any piece of literature, right, or a movie, right? So a book or a podcast, TV series, movie, anything that you've come across recently or just really inspired you or stuck with you in somewhere.
Gotcha. So a piece of media or like it's any piece of
It
it.
could be, it could be anything. Yeah, could be anything.
Okay. Um, I think like if it's a piece of media, I don't know, man. I'm on this Disney binge right now. Like I've been watching random like Disney movies, like OG Disney movies. I think it's always good to watch those. But in a real like an actual piece of advice that I would say is like take it from someone who like is kind of like been at the bottom of the bottom to like the top. You know, it's like I've kind of been in so many different worlds. The best advice I can say is just like have fun with whatever you're doing. Like it doesn't matter what you're doing. Be honest with yourself and be passionate about what you're doing. And then you will eventually find yourself because don't try to cheat yourself and don't try to put like it's like don't try to like mold yourself into someone that you're not. You
Hmm.
know, like I always say, like sometimes people are like squares trying to fit in a round hole. Like you can push it in and it might be there, but it doesn't fit there. It's not supposed to be there. So
Right,
lean into
right.
who you are, man. Be yourself and just have fun with life. Because like at the end of the day, it could be gone tomorrow. You can literally die tomorrow, and you don't want to like think back at like, oh, I should have done that. I should have done this at my deathbed. If I'm like quadriplegic, if I fell off a balcony and like lost my limbs, you know, and I can't move anymore, it's like I wish I did that. You don't want to have regrets in life, man. Have fun with what you're doing. Do what you do and just like live life to the fullest because it could be gone away. Like it'd be taken away from you soon. So enjoy yourself.
That is a great recommendation. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Of course, man. Of course.
All right.
All right.
Well, that does conclude the podcast. Thank you so much
Awesome.
for joining us over here.
Oh,
To our
thank you guys.
listeners, if you guys are not already connected to Your Life Unfiltered on Instagram, please be sure to give us
Actually,
a follow.
Ketul, maybe you can ask Sachin to plug his socials as well. Feel free to
Oh,
wrap.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely, man. First of all, thank
So
you
where can
guys for
we?
this. For the
Hmm?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So if you want to follow me on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all my ats are at Scotchy. So at SCKACHI. If you're into funny videos, if you're into funny concepts, check me out.
All right,
Awesome.
awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining, Sachin. If you guys are not already connected to Your Life Unfiltered on Instagram, please be sure to give us a follow. That's at Your Life Unfiltered. Thank you so much and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone.